Hello, my loves, and welcome back to another episode of the Sacred Embodiment Podcast. My name is Sheila, and I am your intuitive, unhinged mentor. I make content specifically for women to help lift and raise their consciousness, connect them to their intuition, help them express themselves more in a balanced, source aligned way with the assistance of your higher self and getting into the spiritual embodiment things without spiritual illusions and bullshit and distortion and yada yada yada. You know what we do out here, okay? You know what we do out here. So, that being said, today's podcast episode, which is 100% channeled as always, I literally I don't plan these things. I just ask herself, hey, what do I need to share today, right now, when I upload this? That is meant to find the aligned and beautiful women here in this space. So, what I was getting specifically, which I just had it, okay, it was the thing about balance. There you go. Okay. I had to remember what it was because as soon as I start channeling, I even forget what I'm talking about because at that point I'm just channeling. Like if I channel and then pause the video, I would not be able to pick up where I left off because I start channeling and I'm just letting God and source and higher self speak through me. Like at that point, I'm not thinking logically. Anyways, okay. So higher self, source wanted me to bring into the intention today, or the perspective shift and change of this understanding of knowing where you sit as a soul, where you sit in your own energy, and this constant restructure, readjustment of pulling back into yourself. Okay. This doesn't have anything to do with being unbothered or being detached. This has to do with the audacity to stay in alignment with yourself. There's a very big difference here because when this is the main foundation, detachment and being unbothered, not taking things personally comes very easily. Like that's another step, right? That's an inevitable step of what happens. But I don't want you to miss the foundational piece, which is the readjustment and the redirection of staying in alignment with yourself without any accountability pieces to anyone else except for yourself. Okay. So when we pull into this energy, there's three different ways that I'm feeling called to explain this and have your perspective shift around this. So you guys know, that's funny, this is what I'm getting. You guys know those example videos or memes where it's like a teacher explaining to their children or a mom explaining to their children, here's my business, there's your business, but you want to be in my business when you really got to be in your business. Okay. That is what I'm getting, but more so in a three-dimensional sense of being, which obviously this entire platform here is to speak about spiritual things for women and break it into pieces for an integrated embodiment that's connected with source, connected to your higher self, connected with God, connected to your femininity, okay, in a pure and balanced sense. So when we tap into this energy of redirection, right, we're readjusting, redirecting our energy to stay in alignment with ourselves. The most clearest foundation will always be the soul pool with the heart, okay? The soul pool that is literally you on your own without any interference of your parents' belief, your, friends, family, society's beliefs, or anything like that, of what that looks like. It's a heart pull directly from within that is pulling you in a forward direction that is only in alignment with you, your higher self, God, and source, and the highest potentials of where you have these timelines where you are the most fulfilled, the most whole, the most happy, the most completed, and you're honoring every single aspect of your growth in this sense. And what's really interesting is I'm getting really congested right now as I'm speaking about this, and I do feel like that is collectively there's a lot of There's a lot of mucus, a lot of distortion around this. So I'm really needing to explain this very thoroughly is what I'm getting. So the heart pull, okay, the sense of direction, the sense of alignment that comes from within. It's a forward direction where it's only in alignment with you. Now, there's two other paths, okay? There's the path here where it is the old beliefs, the emotional ego, the emotional distortion, the younger version of you that is afraid of what may happen if you start to move in alignment with just yourself. And then there is the societal structures, the matrix, dark force programming that kind of brainwashes you to believe what anyone fucking feeds you. Literally, what anyone feeds you, what your friends feed you, what social media feeds you, what literally anyone else feeds you. Whereas this heart pool alignment is where you are connected to your intuition, you're connected to your foundations as a woman, you're connected to your security, your sense of safety within yourself, the awareness that you are the biggest piece and the greatest creation in your own world, and that you are literally life rebirthing onto itself over and over and over again. Because women, we have this beautiful ability to bring life into this planet, but we also can rebirth versions of ourselves. Okay. Now, this side here, where it is your younger self, the distorted pieces, and I have a little one of those like glass reflective things, so that's why you see all the little sparkles and things. Yeah. So if I kind of move a little bit, it's because it might shine in my eye and blind me momentarily. So this side over here where it is, you know, like your younger self, your parental beliefs, the emotional states of your ego, of the wounded parts of you that don't feel seen, heard, safe to even consider any other direction versus just going, you know, sideways off the rails into listening to your ego. This side right here is rooted and cemented into one thing, and that one thing is the fear of feeling like if you were to look at yourself from a third person perspective, from a higher perspective with source and with God, that you would feel utterly incomplete and unfulfilled and disgusted with yourself, okay? Because that is the wound that is being held there. The emotional ego, the emotional inner child that felt scared for whatever traumas they went through, which obviously I've gone through so much fucking shit. We can talk about it all year long. But I mean, we've all gone through things. So this part of you right here on this side, that is that emotional ego distortion and insecurity and inner child that doesn't feel safe. She has this deep inner wound of feeling like if I confront myself fully, then I'm going to feel worse. Okay? That is the true inner child of fear, right? Because you, like, ignorance is bliss when you're a child. You really look up to your parents. They're considered God. You take on all their perspectives, all their unhealed trauma. You know, your ego is kind of developed in this place because it's riddled with distortion and distractions and places or parts and pieces that are not actually yours. It's kind of developed through a slew of fucking things. But the core feeling and the core vibration of that, when you intuitively look in and energetically remove the layers, because they'll look different for everyone, but the deepest core of that layer is if I look at myself, I will be terrified to find out the truth of myself, and I won't like what I see and what I find out. Okay. Now, this other perspective here, where it is the combination of the distortion, the matrix, the dark programming, the societal bullshit, the religious lies, the spiritual lies that feed into a part of you that is like so distant from yourself because it's fully just kind of going along with whatever anyone else is feeding you. These two parts go hand in hand because obviously if you're afraid to confront yourself, you will always listen to this, which is that matrix, ego, dark force programming, societal expectations, what your friends, family, social media thinks you should be doing about your spirituality, about your religion, about insert fucking XYZ everything, okay? That side's always going to be there because you're going to refer to that versus looking over here, right? But at the same time, this side is always going to feed off of this because it's the fucking running engine. It is literally the engine that pushes you to stay here. Like without this, honestly, dark force, this is dark force programming and matrix programming feeds off of that scared energy of being afraid to confront yourself. So this whole fucking system here of programming literally runs off of that fear, that very deep, deep, deep fear. Okay. You are in a constant readjustment, reclaiming, redirecting period and stage of yourself to remove yourself from the dark force programming, from the societal expectations, from the matrix brainwashing. There's a lot of noises going on over there with my dogs and my cats. We're just gonna ignore it. But you are constantly in a realm of pulling yourself out of that. And also at the same time, I'm sorry, I had to click on my screen because she went dark for a little bit. I was like, are you about to die on me? Also pulling on, oh my God. I think Robin might not, she might see someone outside that she does not approve of. I'm going to let her keep barking. It's okay. We're fine. You know how I said if I get distracted, I'm going to lose my train of thought because when I start channeling, I like really lock into that. So hold on. Okay. So when you are looking into when you are looking into this other side of the fear part, right? Where the part where you feel afraid to actually look into if you confront yourself, what will actually be revealed. Like I said, that is literally the engine, the fuel for the dark force programming and the societal expectations and the brainwashing that goes on this side. Okay, hold on, you guys, because she's actually really not happy. Okay, we're back. Robin saw something she didn't like, which was people walking anywhere near our house. She's like, no, this is mom's property. She puts a lot of energy into gridlocking this space. So, which is true, I do. Now, where I was going with this is that when you, because like I said, you're in this constant redirection, and really, you would only ever actually pull into this constant redirection if you're aware of yourself, right? You would only constantly pull into this redirection of like confronting the parts of yourself that you're afraid to look at, connecting them to source, connecting them to God, connecting them to your higher self, removing yourself from dark force programming, brainwashing, societal expectations, matrix, coding bullshit that just keeps you small and tiny and captured and in fear, and redirecting yourself to this heart-centered space where you can actually acknowledge yourself fully and use your intuition, peel off the layers of illusions, of distortion, reclaim your sovereignty to God, to source, independently within yourself, and hold those energetic pieces for yourself, okay? And you would only do this constantly if you are, and if you can be aware of yourself every single time. And this is the thing of like this redirection of having to understand what it means when you redirect yourself in a way that is in alignment with source. When you redirect yourself back into that heart-centered space where you are using your intuition, viewing yourself, seeing yourself, and being aware that there's parts and pieces of yourself that can continue to be confronted in aspects of light so you can, reobtain those light pieces that were lost. Same thing in the sense of like the brainwashing societal bullshit, reclaiming those pieces so you can reobtain those energetic light pieces within yourself. But it only comes from you constantly tuning in and being mindful and aware of yourself enough to actively notice that. And I have this thing where it's like, anyone can do this, but I'm sharing this with you, okay? If you were to zoom out, okay, if you were to zoom out and look at your life from a third person perspective and look at your life from the lens of source, of higher self, of God, and zoom out and literally imagine that like your life is just a bubble, and now you're zooming out and you're seeing the bubble, the sphere of your life, of your reality from an outside perspective, looking at all the different angles. You're looking at it from this side, from this side, from the bottom, from the top, from every single angle that you can think of. When you pull out from that perspective, that's where you can actually see the blind spots and the missing spots that you're not acknowledging. If they're, parts and pieces where you're afraid to confront yourself and what would happen if you do, and the parts and pieces that are societal, built off of, you know, half-ass cement foundations that are 9 times out of 10 distorted from either parental views, or like unhealed trauma or societal expectations or dark force programming or whatever the case may be. And looking at yourself from that third person perspective and connecting yourself to God and to source at the same time in order to actually get the full picture, in order to actually see, okay, if this is my life entirely and I see the gaps, what happens when I connect myself back to my heart pull, back to the most sovereign version of myself, fully in alignment with God, source, and higher self? Which, if you guys haven't seen that video about my last podcast episode about like an introduction to your higher self, please do, because this will be tremendously useful and building upon the foundations of like, okay, if I'm looking out third person perspective, that's when you can bring in your higher self. And I explain how to do that in that previous podcast episode. So that would be a perfect way to look at this and like hold that vibration and that awareness and that embodiment piece for yourself so you can actually start doing it. But if you were to pull into if you were to pull out, actually, if you were to pull out and pull into source, God perspective, higher self perspective from this third person perspective, then that way you can see the missing places and where's the actual redirection that actually pulls you back into center with heart, with your heart self, with the heart pull, with the soul pull, which is always 100% in alignment with source. But first, you would have to clearly, obviously, like pull back and pull away from those matrix programmings, those dark force programmings, the societal expectations, and the brainwashing that has been going on. And then also pull out from this fear of what would happen if I confront myself and flip it on its fucking head and actually say, you know what? If I do confront myself, this is going to be the best thing ever, because then I will see myself for the true version of who I am and where I can make shifts and changes. Those two pieces combined with the third person perspective of looking through the lens of source, of God, higher self, with your intuition, connecting to higher self, which higher self is the most healed version of you, the most in alignment, the most reclaimed, most sovereign version of you that has gone through so many shifts and changes and challenges to be super in alignment with source and with God. That is where you can actually see, okay, this is where the redirection is going. And sometimes, because I've done this, sometimes you'll look out and you'll be like, holy shit, I am literally leaning so far off to one side. And that's not even the side that your girl needs to be on. Like, that is the complete opposite side. I'm literally running programs and running my reality through the version of my mom, or through the version of what, my bully said to me when I was 7 years old, or through the version of my insecurities about feeling XYZ, versus when I look at the actual soul pull and I use my intuition and I connect to higher self and I connect to God to redirect myself. When I'm looking at it, I'm like, holy shit, you guys, we actually need to make 5 steps to the left, and then we're right back on the, on the soul pull again. And we're right back on the heart aligned, source conscious, source driven path of embodied growth. So I will leave it there. I hope you beautiful souls enjoyed this podcast episode. If you did, please let me know down below. And I hope you have such a beautiful day. All the love to the beautiful women here in this space who continue to join me on this journey, who continue to watch these videos, my shorts, yap with me on Instagram. You are the best. You are special. You are loved. You are fucking magical. my love. Okay, besitos. Bye.